So the next award goes to a gentleman who has not been before this group before, but from what we saw out there, I don't think this is the last that we're going to see of this guy. He's done some amazing things in just a very short, relatively very short amount of time. So let's take a look. Jason Imes Tree Farm, 156 acres out on the Snodgrass Road north of Silver Creek. He purchased this from his grandfather, and the grandfather had bought it in 1962 from the Snodgrass family, who were the original homesteaders out there. And the land was used for cattle pasture, never really used for forestry purposes, so it was a real mix of, a mix. And some people would call that stump ranching, anyway, so we'll see what he's done with it. Jason took ownership of this in 2010. The crew, I went out there and looked at it with his biggest problem. We had to laugh a little bit about this. Is he has really good dirt. We would really love to have his problem, but it has some drawbacks, and he showed us those, and he's got some directions now how he's going to deal with that. And anyway, I'm sure he's going to have serious forest very rapidly here. So the dirt he's dealing with out there is cinnabar silt loam. For those of you that know all these technical terms, that's a Douglas fir site index 133. And if you're more familiar with the term site class rather than site index, it's right there on the borderline, almost site class 1 Douglas fir ground. Anyway, amazing stuff, and he's doing great things with that. What that 133 number means to us non-forester types, that means that this dirt generally would grow a Douglas fir tree 133 feet tall in 50 years. Okay, here's Jason in his working attire. So I got him to stand still for just a moment for this photo. And this is a little parcel that he just bought adjacent to his main parcel. Just bought this, and he's out there already rehabbing this thing and shaping it up. Alrighty, so here's the Imes Tree Farm. Basically a quarter section with a little patch down here at the bottom. This 2022 rehab, it's marked. He just purchased that and is rehabbing that. Alrighty, so he has planted, he's done 2 or 3 harvests here. So this 2011 area, this is comprised of 3 different plantings. So there's about 20 acres of alder in here, and the balance of this 30-some acres was split between Douglas fir and alder on the lighter green area, and Douglas fir and western red cedar on the darker portion. Alrighty, and then over to the left of the screen there, that's an area. There's another 20 acres that was harvested just this year. We're going to take a look at that. And then the bottom portion there, the lighter colored, is a very nice 2016 plantation, doing very nicely. So up on the right corner, I made a little notation there, and that an adjacent 40 acres plus probably 3 or 4 more 40s beyond that are the former John Rankin tree farms. So John Rankin, he suffered this same problem as Jason. Really fast growing trees. Terrible problem, terrible. So let's move on and look at Jason's work. He's really done some amazing stuff there. And this young guy is, he's a make it happen, get it done guy. Amazing what he's done since he's owned this place. And we're not giving any awards for home building, but you should see the nice home he built right in the middle of this place. And he built that himself. I mean, like drove the nails himself. So it's really amazing all he's done so far out there. Okay, so this is his most recent harvest. This was done for him by Tree Management Plus, and he's already got this sprayed and site prepped and ready for planting next year. And this picture was taken in October. I wouldn't doubt that this guy has probably got all his piles burnt by now. This will be planted in the spring. And typical of those kind of harvests, this real mixed stand, like I said, it really never been used for forestry before. It was pasture and had logging done on it, so it had a lot of maple, a lot of alder, a lot of defective stuff, and so he's doing some firewood salvage there. Okay, so now we're up on the top of the ridge there in that 2016 Douglas fir stand, telling Reggie and Ken here, we're giving him a bad time about his terrible problem. Anyway, so if you guys would look at those leaders on those trees, he's explaining to us, and this guy, he knows something about dirt. Soil and agricultural chemicals and agriculture is his world, and he's pointing out that the soil here on the ridge is the same soil, but it's just shallower, and so the trees grow a little slower. So these are some of his slow trees. Okay, we'd all love to have slow trees like that. Okay, now we're down at his home looking out towards the Cascade Mountain Range, and this is looking at his 2011 Douglas fir plantation. These trees, of course, you look at the nice dark green color, growing very vigorously. Looking at pre-commercial thinning here in the next couple of years. Anyway, shaping up real good. Alrighty, we're back to this photo to talk about the rest of that 2011 plantation. He chose to plant about 20 acres into red alder. So let's take a look at that. Alrighty, here he's showing Reggie around his alder plantation. This is a 2011 planting, so roughly 11-year-old trees. Check those 11-year-old alders out. So how'd you get them to look like that? So he had this planted at about 450 stems per acre, and then 9 years later he had this PCT down to 330 stems per acre. Here's typical one of the ones, it was 8 years, and that were cut out, and this was done in 2019. So they were thinning out trees that were like 4 or 5 inch diameter, and that's what this stand looks like today, and it's doing wonderful. And he's considering doing a commercial thin of his alder plantation. And from what we saw out there, yep, he's going down that road, and it looks like it'll work to me. And look at this has been pre-commercially thinned, and alder is sensitive about thinning. You have to keep a closed canopy. They don't like sunlight on the ground, drying out the roots in the ground. He's got a nice closed canopy, but yet he's got really nice spacing here, and those trees are growing wonderfully. For a relatively new guy into the forestry world, this guy is doing some wonderful things. With that, I think he certainly typifies what we mean by stewards of the land for generations to come. And I think his grandfather would be really proud of what he's done with that piece of property.